So sometimes you're not going to be given a list of ordered pairs. And so you might be given a graph. Okay. So we use something called the vertical line test to help us determine if something is a function. So basically, what this is saying is use a vertical line test to determine if y is a function of x. So you can draw a vertical line anywhere on the graph, and you want to consider all parts of the graph. And if this vertical line crosses the graph in two different places, like we have here, then that's going to make this not a function. Why? Because, for example, here you have that in -3, the output is 2, or -3, the output is -2. So what we're saying here is this point here is -3 and 2, and this point is -3, -2. So if you were to make a table, you have -3, 2, and -2. 3 is going to two different places, and that's going to cause it not to be a function. So number 2, if I draw a vertical line here, notice it only crosses in one place, so that's going to be a function. And then in the next one, if you draw a line, it crosses in two different places, so that's not a function. And then the last one here, if I draw a vertical line here, notice it only crosses in one place. But you might be wondering, what if you draw the line over here? It's touching this point and this point. So just briefly, we'll discuss it later. If you have a dot that is filled, we say that this is a closed point. And what that means is that the point is included. It's part of the graph. If you have an open point, or that's going to look like this, that means that the point is not included. So in this picture here, even though it's touching this open point, that point is really not part of the graph. And so this is still going to be a function because it's only touching the closed dot. Sometimes you're not going to have a graph, so we're going to have something that looks like this. And there's two ways to do this. Number one, we can do it algebraically. But number two, which is going to be quicker, is to understand what the graphs look like. So by the end of chapter 1, you should be able to recognize what this graph is going to be if you graph it. If you look at this, you should be able to know what that's going to be look like, and then you should know what this is going to look like. So first, I'm going to talk about the actual graph. So in section 1.1, if the highest variable for x is 1, then in the last two sections, we learned that this is going to be a line if you graph it. So the line is going to either go up like this, or it could go the opposite direction. Whether it's like this one or this one, if you were to draw a vertical line test, it's going to pass that vertical line test. So here all lines are going to be, anything that's a linear equation would be a function. They'll pass the vertical line test. Letter B, the graph for this is going to be a parabola, so it's going to have the following shape. And you'll learn that in the next few sections coming up. So if the highest power is 2 for x, it's always going to look like a U shape that is opening up, or it could open down as well. So regardless if it opens up or down, then you can see that it's going to pass that vertical line test. So we say that's going to be a function. And then the last one you saw in the last section, if your x is squared and your y is squared, then this is going to be a circle. And since it's a circle, then it's going to fail that vertical line test. So we say that this is not a function. Now, algebraically, what you want to do is first you want to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract x on both sides and divide by 4. So y is equal to -1/4 x plus 2. So then what you want to do with this result is ask yourself, for whatever value I put for x, is it going to give me one output? So for example, if I enter a -4, this would become 1 plus 2 is 3. So if I enter -4, I'm going to get just an answer of 3. If I enter a 0, then my answer is going to be 2, because this would be 0 plus 2. And if I enter, let's say, a +4, -1/4 times 4 is -1, plus 2 will give me a 1. So you can see that these values here are going just to one item. So this is going to be a function. Same with letter B. What you want to do is solve for y. So I'm going to add 4x on both sides. And again, if you enter, let's say, a -1, -1 is going to be a +1 plus 4 plus 36 would be 40. If I enter 0, then I get 36. If I enter 1, then I get 40 again. So notice -1 goes to just one thing, 0 goes to one thing, 1 goes to one thing. So this is going to be a function. And then the last one, I want to solve for y, so I'm going to subtract x squared on both sides. And to solve for y, I need to take the square root. So y is plus or minus -x squared plus 4. And so if you notice here, if I use 0, then 0 is going to give me 0 here, plus 4 is 4. The square root of 4 is going to be 2 or a -2, since we have the plus or minus. So you can see that 0 is giving me two answers, 2 and -2. Therefore, this is not a function. So basically, if you have to take the square root to simplify the function, then it's going to be not a function automatically. So anytime that you have to take the square root, then it's not going to be a function.